Hi, this is my presentation on a government issue and a new policy that I would like to implement to fix the change. My name is Daisy Dorado. This is for Government 2306. It is due today on December 12, 2025. It is called Immigration Wait Time. The overview. This presentation stands on setting a new and stricter regulation upon setting a time limit on waiting time for immigrants' approval on green cards. This is due to COVT-induced blockage, processing blockage, and legal limits on approvals. Okay, a little bit of background. A Cato Institute passage informs why the wait is unimaginable. Now, if you don't know now, it's very common, I think, right now, especially where we live, right next to the border. I have a lot of family members, and I bet other people do. A lot of family members that live in Juarez, and they can't cross because they're trying to go the right path. They're trying to do it legally, but unfortunately, there's so many people that the wait is unimaginable. Like my PowerPoint says, I won't say how long. I want you to get an idea of how long you think the wait is if you don't know. And then you'll see later on in my presentation, and hopefully you'll be a little bit stunned by it. Moving on, that due to processing backlogs which develop when a number of submitted requests exceeds the number of processed requests, and due to cap-induced backlog by setting a legal limit on approvals below the number of requests that would otherwise be approved by the agency. That was from a passage from Bear in 2022. Now, a similar passage specifies that this affects mostly the family presence category, which is basically individuals of those with like more distant family relationships with the U.S. citizens, and that itself has its own limit each fiscal year. So we have those two, I guess maybe three problems. It's they just not enough people to basically approve all of those demanding large amount of waitings. And then we also have the legal limits that Congress expresses, the specific limit each year, and that for sure pushes back a bunch of people and just increases the wait. And that moment, yeah, we can also see that, let's say there was no limit on that, then we would have no caught blockage, but now we would have a processing backlog on people, not having enough people to complete all those approvals. Moving on, another kind of passage where it states how there is plenty of categories and purposes that take the lead first in line due to employment and more. While this is understandable, wait time also depends on where the immigrants are trying to cross from. Apparently, the category for siblings of adult U.S. citizens had the longest average wait in 2018, being 14 years and 7 months. That was from a passage again from Bear in 2019. It then states that the wait time for Mexican siblings of U.S. citizens is different from that of Filipino siblings of U.S. citizens under Bear 2019. Now, with preferences and categories and limits on approvals, we see that the wait time can last up to 20 years. And with not disturbing those preferences, we must have at least a weight limit on how far that wait time can progress from. That's at least no more longer than 10 years. This can either include, again, more employment for processing backlogs, or a limit on an actual minimum approval opposing to a limit on the maximum approval that is relating to the COVT-induced backlogs. So yeah, these two passages basically this talks a little bit more about the preference, how that's understandable. With some employment, they have a little bit more preference when trying to cross. And then we also see a little bit more unfairness on how a Mexican sibling of a U.S. citizen and a Filipino sibling of a U.S. citizen has different wait times, and you saw how large that wait time was. So yes, it can go up to 20 years. And I was imposing a little bit of ideas here in this one, just maybe more employment, and then instead of the maximum limit, maybe a minimum limit, and of course that just comes with more employment. And here we have some tables and graphs. The first one, the figure one, basically states average years waited for preference immigrants to apply for green cards. Second is years waited for family preference immigrants to apply for green cards. All of them show basically 1991 to 2018. You see a huge difference in the 2018 and the 1991. The time just keeps increasing. And over here on the left, we have years waited for green card preferences categories with longer than average waits in 2018. Here's a quick example of a backlog, like focusing on number of immigrants visas issued by month of October 2018 to July 2022. As of July 22, 2022, the non-divergent immigrant visa interview backlog stood at 421,668, down from a peak actually of 556,384 in June 2021. That was again from the passage of Bayer from 2022. And what this is trying to see is the numbers do increase or decrease, but they still stay basically in that short range that doesn't move, which is the high or middle grounds of 100,000s. Why is the current policy not enough? This current policy does not place a time limit, letting decades happen without enforcing care in the trouble it causes families while waiting. Due to this, many individuals lose interest or reason to receive their green card after so long, making them basically a wasteful individual waiting in line. Plus, the limit only comes to process more and more. Recommended action: Congress should place a time limit on how long waits for immigration approval can be. Why is recommendation action practical? This recommendation is practical because of the literature and graphs pointing to an everlasting cycle of backlog and stickiness in their improvement. Today we see many issues that come from the main issue. That's one stated in the presentation. Like for example, many argue about why we're deporting people from coming here illegally when sometimes they just really have no choice. If they do it illegally, it's gonna take forever, and really many people can't do that. And maybe putting more attention in this main thing of that wait time, we can decrease those other problems happening. In the summary, considering the information, I deeply encourage many to take my recommended action and to fight for a faster, better, and easier process on many struggling families trying to arrive at a better place. Reference, and these are my 3 references that I had. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. I had a fun time digging into this. Thank you.